but we want to give you ideas and strategies on how to get that connection going. You will be different parents. Your kid will have different parents than you guys had if you can come together in the intimacy department. And it's not always penetrative sex. Intimacy is a smorgasbord wide range of everything. And I think a lot of times we just think of it as sex. You don't even have to have sex to have really good intimacy and communication. Welcome to the Birth Education Center podcast, hosted by myself, Care Messer, an entrepreneur, birth educator, and doula. My team and I want to help you discover your options in birth and postpartum, how to find your voice, and how to use that voice to navigate our maternal healthcare system. You and your baby are not just a number. This information includes doulas too. Now let's get started. When I have Rose on the show, just so everybody knows, there are no topics that are left unturned. Everything is available for conversation, and we really have no boundaries because we both have sex coaching in our backgrounds, and we love to get together and chat. So today we're going to focus on keeping intimacy during birth. We will have another episode on keeping the intimacy during postpartum, but I wanted to introduce Rose to you today and have her tell you a little bit more about her background. But Rose is still a doctor of physical therapy. And that's how I met her years ago. And she became one of our experts to refer families to when they needed to see how they were going to be pushing and what was going on with their pelvic floor and what if they were doing Kegels wrong and all those things. Rose has since become, a couple years ago, an intimacy coach as well. So she combines the best of the physical of what's going on in our bodies with the intimacy and the boundaries we may have with sex and the things we don't talk about with sex, etc. She's become such an expert and she answers all my questions. She's the go-to for me. So we're going to talk today about all things. Oh, I like that I just love you. I just want everybody to love you like I love you. Rose has since created her own holistic wellness program called Be Well with Rose, bewellwithrose.com. And she's going to discuss all that at the end as well. But Rose, I want you to tell our listeners how you came to be with all this training and how it's blossomed for you before we get into our topic today.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's such a joy to be here with you. And honestly, it is a delight anytime I'm in your presence, but we are talking about our favorite topic. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So yes, my background, I am a doctor of physical therapy. Going through undergrad, I double majored in bio and psych. I wanted to be a sex therapist and I wanted to be a physical therapist. Then I figured out we could do physical therapy for the most sensitive parts of our body. And I was like, oh, this is perfect for me. I've always been that go-to friend that people are like, this is probably TMI, but I don't know who else to talk to about this. And as most practitioners find, our own healing journey is one of the most profoundly impactful pieces in how we treat, how we show up, and how we support the people that we work with. So I had the privilege of working at an incredible world-renowned biopsychosocial facility that focused on sexual medicine from a holistic perspective. We had sex therapy, we had physical therapy, we had the medical management of sexual dysfunction all under one roof.
It was all-encompassing.
Yes. And I'm so fortunate that I was able to learn from one of the world's leading experts over those years that I spent at that facility. And parallel to where I was having this amazing professional experience, personally, I was really struggling with my own health. I had, just like many of the listeners I'm sure have experienced, I had a hormonal health issue that many doctors were telling me was like, yeah, you're fine. Your labs look good. You're good. But I could tell that my body wasn't right. I could tell I felt completely different. And the medical gaslighting that I experienced and the being brushed aside, I felt my own story reflected back to me again and again in the women and queer folks that I was working with at the clinic, people who were experiencing pain during sex and who were told, hey, just drink some wine and try some lube, people who were experiencing decreased connection to their partner, decreased desire postpartum, and they're being told like, yeah, you have a kid now. That's what it is.
Your labs are within normal, so I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah, just relax. Just relax. And it really forced me to take my healing into my own hands and to look outside the Western model. I dove deep into functional nutrition and holistic coaching. From there, I really got interested in the nervous system and how do both the actions we're taking throughout the day, what we eat, how we sleep, the sunshine we see, but also how do our relationships, how do the bigger systems in society, how does the way we were socialized as female show up in our bodies, show up in our behaviors, show up in our communication? And
Oh, that somatic stuff. It's the
oh
best therapy
yeah,
I've ever done. Your body records everything. And once you can tap into that and loosen it up, holy cow.
it does. And the cool thing is, I began to see that it's this dual approach, right? We can work from the top down. We can look at our thoughts, our beliefs, and how that impacts our body. But we can also start to speak the language of our body, learn the wisdom of our body, and be able to identify, ooh, my body feels off. Let me do a somatic practice. Let me do a quick functional neurology practice, 30 seconds or less, and change my physiological state quickly, much faster than like, why do I feel this way? What are the beliefs that I hold? It takes a long time to do that change work. Right?
It does. And that's what I do. I go through a million questions instead of going, wait a minute, I know how to do this. I have the tools.
Right. And sometimes top down is needed and helpful, but it's really nice to be able to use both approaches, top down and bottom up. And so that's how I built my program. It does take pieces from the Western side. It does take pieces from my background as a physical therapist, understanding intimately how the muscles interact, how our breathing impacts our pelvic floor and our nervous system, how we need strength, we need coordination, especially during pregnancy and postpartum, and how we need functioning pelvic floor muscles, not only to have a healthy pregnancy and delivery, but also to make sure that we're not leaking urine or gas or stool after or during pregnancy, to make sure that we can have intimacy without pain, to make sure that we can have really powerful, amazing orgasms. We need to know that the medical side is taken care of, but we also need to look at how are our thoughts and beliefs showing up in my body, and what simple 30-second practices can I use to address from the body forward? How can I use this inner wisdom to help me shift my mood, shift my state faster? So that's what I'm all about now.
And I think too, I've had so many parents come through where not only are they having intimacy issues, but the pregnancy brought on memories of trauma or abuse or stuff that had been buried for a long time. And now they find themselves pregnant. They don't want to tap into it, but they're also getting ready to deliver a baby the same way. And they're still trying to figure out how I even got pregnant because I buried it so far. And now that I might be having a daughter and that's what brought it up, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it where, yes, they can get therapy, but afterwards, the functionality of everything, that's where you come in. And that's been quite a blessing for many of my families when they've been able to go to you because you have the top down, bottom up approach. So I appreciate what you do for that reason. In class, one of the things that I hit on right from the beginning, if someone's calling me at 2 months along, what's the intimacy like? How can we stay connected to our partners? Because first trimester, we're so scared to miscarry that we push our partners away. Second trimester, we're worried about work and getting the nursery done and everything planned. So we push our partners away because we're tired. We may have a little rev up at some point because of hormones. And then third trimester, we've gained too much weight or we can't figure out how to pleasure and do that thing because we just can't move anymore. We just can't figure it out logistically. And we push our partners away. So the more we push them away, male or female, it does not matter. They're feeling like I've lost everybody. Remember that we used to like each other. And then fast forward to postpartum and you've had a baby and you're not sleeping and it may be 3 to 4 months, maybe longer because of what happened at the birth, etc. That partner is like, I feel lost. I don't feel connected. You're feeling the same way because you feel lost and disconnected, but you can't understand why they don't understand. It can be a really messy web if you don't start to take ownership earlier and have the communication around it.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you talk about these things. It's so important. And I really think that most of the time, there's no practitioners that talk about sex and connection. Right? It's
It's
okay.
so
Let's look at the
needed.
medical. It's so needed.
And what kind of things would you, if you're getting somebody that's in that pregnancy state and they come to you for maybe in the old days when you were doing physical work, they would come for pelvic floor evaluations and stuff like that. But now if a family or a pregnant person is coming to you, what are they asking and what kind of pitfalls are they just, sitting in that you're helping them with?
So, oftentimes when people come to me during pregnancy, a lot of the time they've come beforehand because they were feeling like they lost their connection during the fertility process and they were trying to rebuild before the baby comes. Sometimes that's when people will show up. Sometimes people will show up before they've gotten pregnant because they're working through pain with intimacy. And once we've overcome pain, they're able to conceive. And the pregnancy time, I think it can be a time where there's a lot of heightened emotions, a lot of fear. It can be very easy to feel out of control and to feel very fearful of how your body is going to handle pregnancy, how your body is going to handle delivery. It's one of the most intense physical things you can go through. And so oftentimes, yes, there is education on, okay, let's do some core strength to keep you connected to your core. Let's teach you some push mechanics to make sure that you're physically supported. But the biggest thing that I want people to understand when they come to me in this point in pregnancy is, when do you know what state your nervous system is in? What is your body telling you? If you have a knot in your stomach, what's the procedure? Right? What do we do? I don't know if we have any Office fans, but I just had this intrusive thought of Michael Scott at the fire episode being like, what's the procedure?
It's true. And where you feel things differently in your body, you handle things differently because of where it's manifesting. So yes, please listen to this. It's so good.
Yes, absolutely. And what I love for people to start practicing during pregnancy is really setting up an intentional time and space for connection. And that doesn't mean have a sex date. It can include sex, but really intentional connection, especially starting these habits during pregnancy, is so important because life is going to look a lot different during postpartum.
Oh, is it ever?
This could be as simple as like a 15-minute check-in. It could be a walk. It could be, hey, let's put phones down and make eye contact from 5 p.m. to 5:30 on a Tuesday.
And that's what I encourage, that 15-minute check-in, even if it's a Sunday afternoon. If you carry that over to postpartum, it makes a huge difference because you've already been doing it. And then you're like, dude, I'm at 10%. Well, I'm at 30%. So how do we get back? So we're somebody here is at 70%. Those
Right.
check-ins make a huge difference if you started that connection earlier.
Absolutely. And I love during that time to ask questions like, what made you feel the closest to me this week? What's something that I could do to help you feel closer? What's something that would make you feel really supported this week? What's something that would make you feel really loved this week? I love encouraging partners to share gratitude at the top. What were you really grateful for this week? What's working? And we can, of course, in these check-ins say, where's there room for improvement, right? Where could we stretch a little bit more? But I love to sandwich it with positive. It's so easy to be so overwhelmed with, okay, what do we have to fix? What do we have to improve? So I love those questions. And then through those check-ins during pregnancy, you start to see the patterns of, oh, it seems like when we have communication, we feel more connected. Or maybe if your partner is somebody who loves quality time, it seems like when we do a shared activity together, we feel more connected. Okay, what are some activities we can start to do together? You can even during this time write out, if you are somebody that feels really connected during quality time, it could be, okay, we keep a jar of fun stuff for us to do together so that when we're exhausted, we don't have to think about it, right? We can just pull something from the jar. I also love different intimacy card decks where
they're so good.
Esther Perel has like a card deck. Where should we begin? There's also the Best Self Co card decks, and there's a number of them, but it could be, oh my God, I don't know what to ask you to connect. I'm so freaking tired. Okay, let's just pull a card. That's it, bare minimum. So if you're feeling resistance around coming up with things to say, don't worry. hack for that. There's an app for that. And then the other piece that I love to incorporate into this is some type of physical touch. And over pregnancy and postpartum, there's going to be times where you feel more sexual. There's going to be times where you feel more comfortable with your body. There might be times where you have higher capacity or lower capacity. I would love for you to be building during this time of pregnancy. Okay, sometimes I liken this to fast food, but like if the gourmet meal is like an hour of amazing, like touching and caressing and eye contact, right? And we're like slow and sensual, taking our time. If that's the gourmet meal, what's the like McDonald's French fries here? What's the 5-minute? I know it's going to be delicious. Let's get it done. Is it we make out for 5 minutes? Is it we just hug each other and breathe? Is it we give each other 2-minute massages each? And so I love to start to build short snacks of physical intimacy. I think
that is a good strategy, Rose.
Sexy snacks,
because sometimes we just don't want it to lead to sex. Like, I want to cuddle with you so much, but as soon as you cuddle up to my back, I know exactly what's going to happen in your body. And I know exactly what you're going to be pushing towards. And while sometimes I'm a yes, not all the time am I a yes.
Right.
And it's not a rejection of you. It's just my body, my desire it's not on the go side. How do we figure that out?
Right. And so normalizing that we can have physical intimacy that doesn't have the outcome of sex all the time. Sometimes it can, sometimes it won't. And I would also say normalizing, hey, if we're cuddling and that feels great to us and I'm good after cuddling, but you want to keep going, great, go for it. I'm going to be here. I'm going to go to sleep. You keep going over there
all the time.
And that's okay. There's no shame in that. And we don't have to resent
that. Go either way, right? That can go either way. Whoever wants to finish themselves can finish themselves. There's no shame in that. It is taking care of ourselves intimately the way we need to be taken care of. And that needs to be normalized, especially in a relationship with two people.
Yeah. So let's recap sexy snacks. So practicing short periods of physical intimacy that can lead to sex, but they don't have to. 2, normalizing that physical intimacy doesn't always lead to sex in your relationship and practicing not taking it personally. And then 3, having consistent check-ins where you're taking a temperature and making sure you're staying emotionally connected. Short, let's make it realistic. So I think that's 3 things that we can start to do during pregnancy already. I can't tell you how easy it is just to go through our day to day and get to the end of a month, end of 3 months and be like, oh my gosh, I've totally been in survival mode and I haven't taken a second to pour into this. I've been preparing. I've been reading all the pregnancy information, all the delivery information. I've been getting the room ready. I've been buying all the things. There's so much to research. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. And I also see, because we let our relationship go a little bit, we don't mean to, but we do let it because the baby takes over. We lose track of our partner and the most important relationship for the baby as well when they come into the picture, right? We need a unified front. But a lot of us had really poor relationship models at home, right? Our parents fought all the time. They were divorced, whatever that was. It's really hard for a lot of us to find, oh, gosh, mom and dad figured it out, or, oh, they still love each other and they still slap each other on the ass and whatever. That's so rare. And I remember thinking, I just don't want to be them. Like, that's not what I want for my relationship. That's all I had modeled for me. And so as much as I didn't want that, I started creating the pattern, and my ex-husband had the same kind of pattern as in his home. And we both agreed we would never do that. And it just creeps in. And even if it's just simple steps, those snacks are amazing. The communication is so necessary. And getting in the habit of that, that's what keeps us either unifying for that strong front and unified connection, or it starts to build it. And it's better to start building it in pregnancy if you don't already have it, and getting some therapy around it if you need to, because you have a new human coming in that's going to be modeling your behavior. And they
Right.
watch everything. They know the dynamics. They know they're building their repertoire of how to survive in the world. And that's a big deal. And no one teaches us how to do that. We're reading books thinking, oh yeah, parenting. But I'm like, what about relationship?
Yes.
Because that's showing them how humans connect.
And our relationships are one of our most powerful indicators of happiness, success, money, right? Like the people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on everything, on our lives, on every aspect of our lives. And so if we can start at home and create a safe relationship, if we can create a safe example, then we're really setting our children up to have safe, grounded relationships. And the last thing I want to say about this is also a chance for you to build your body literacy with yourself and your relationship with yourself, right? And so it's really important to identify, what's coming up in your body right before, if you do have an anxiety spiral or if you do have a conflict with your partner, what does it feel like in your body right before? Okay.
Oh my gosh, Rose, body literacy. I just saw a t-shirt. I'm like, I've seen a couple t-shirts since we've been talking, but I'm like, body literacy. That's so sexy. That's so sexy. Can you explain how the nervous system works to build desire or tap desire in the bedroom? Because you're right. Where does it feel in your body? That's what I'm working for in birth class for pregnancy. It carries over to postpartum, but it definitely carries over in sex and intimacy. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think about the nervous system like there's two kind of like main parts. There's an action taking part. That's our sympathetic nervous system. That's what helps us fight or flee. It can also be really helpful, especially in our capitalism, productivity-based society where we're like getting shit done. That's our get shit done nervous system. We also have our restful nervous system, rest and digest. This is our relaxed nervous system. And this can also be not so helpful when we are in freeze. So when we get shut down. So understanding what each of those states feels like in your body is step one. So for me, when I'm in fight and flight or action taking, I tend to have more racing thoughts. I tend to feel more energy in my body. It's a little harder for me to stay present if I'm having like a one-on-one conversation. I feel like I need to keep moving, keep doing. I might feel my heart racing a little bit faster.
That's where the anxiety rears its nasty head, like all the intrusive thoughts.
Yep. Oh, big time. This could be like, oh, I forgot to send that work email, or just feeling just like an impending sense of like dread in your body, doom in your body. So that's really important to note. Okay, I'm in like my action taking nervous system is overachieving right now. The other side of this, that freeze, I understand that I'm in freeze when I'm scrolling my phone, when I know that I should or would feel better doing something. Like I would feel a lot better going for a walk right now, but I can't seem to stop scrolling, or I can't seem to get off the couch, or I look at my sink and it's full of dishes, and it would make me so happy if those dishes were done, but I can't seem to take action. So it's some of that procrastination. It's that feeling of resistance. And
I love that you gave modern examples of freeze, because those are all actual things we do. And still in my brain, I think freeze and I can't do anything, but I can do monotonous things that keep me from like, why can't I just get up and freaking do that? It's going to haunt me if I don't do those stupid bottles tonight, and I'm not going to I'm not doing them.
Yes.
And I know I should. And now it's midnight. I'm going to bed. Thank you for giving that normal, like the normalcy of what freeze looks like to us today.
And I want to normalize, we're all going to go through all of these states. The goal is not to be a robot. The goal is to understand, oh, seems like I'm in freeze. Okay, what do I need when I'm in freeze? What we need, here's what I'll say. Oftentimes, it's very helpful to complete the stress response cycle. If we think about the nervous system as the thing that keeps us safe when we're in life-threatening danger, historically, if our body is preparing to run and fight by pumping blood to our heart, pumping blood to our arms and legs, we might need to move some energy out of our body, like through exercise, like through singing, like through dancing, so that we signal our brain, okay, all the blood that you pumped into my heart, all the blood you pumped into my arms and legs, I used it.
It's been
and
used.
Now I'm safe. Now I can chill. So that is helpful when you're in that kind of, I can't turn my brain off. I feel anxious. My thoughts are spiraling. So step number 1, identify what state you're in. Step number 2, have compassion for yourself. I'm so human. Oh my gosh, it makes perfect sense. Society is totally built for me to be as productive as possible, which means that it keeps me in my action-taking nervous system as much as possible.
And they're just as judgmental to make sure we stay in that productive mode. Rest is the hardest thing for me to do.
It is. Yeah, because it's not celebrated in our society because capitalism.
I literally hear my mom's voice. Like it was just, there was no time to be idle. Keep going. Besides our society, I had that at home too. So yeah.
Right. And when we don't have that natural balance of ebb and flow, action and inaction, that's when we can get into burnout. And so we take action so much that then there's nothing left to do because our heart and our lungs and our arms have all this blood, but our brain is like, it seems like we're never free from danger. It seems like we constantly have to run. So this strategy isn't working. We're going to go to freeze now. And this is how we get into, go ahead.
We're working on ancient patterns off of ancient biological, keep this human alive patterns in modern day.
And when we understand that, doesn't it take so much of the pressure off of us? We don't have to ask that question of what's wrong with me. We're like, oh my God, of course I feel exhausted.
It's genetic.
Of course I want to scroll my phone right now. I've been asking my body to be in fight and flight nonstop, and I've never given it a break from the quote unquote danger. Of course it's going to burn out. Of course I'm going to not want to finish the laundry. Of course I'm going to not want to do the dishes. I'm exhausted. And let's talk about freeze now. So if you're in freeze, micro movements can be a really helpful thing. And what I mean by that is taking tiny little bite-sized actions. An example, I'm stuck in a scroll hole on my phone. Step number 1, I've identified, wow, I'm totally in freeze. I am totally in a scroll hole. Step number 2, I have compassion with myself. I'm like, makes perfect sense. I worked really hard yesterday and I bet I'm a little overtired. I'm so human, but I don't want to stay in this scroll hole. So I'm going to take action based on my nervous system state. And for freeze, we do micro movements. So I'm on my phone. I close my eyes. That's my first micro movement. I just close my eyes. Second micro movement, I put my phone down. Third micro movement.
Simple steps.
Yes. I sit up. Fourth, I stand up. For the dishes, it could be, okay, I just stand at the sink. I just stand at the sink. And then, okay, I just wash one dish. So we break it down into the smallest pieces possible so that we start building momentum and getting out of that inaction, frozen state, that like the unhelpful inaction state. And we start going back and building that healthy balance of action and inaction. And so understanding this within yourself is one of the most important parts of being in relationship, because just think about times when you get home and you're like, I freaking hate my partner right now. They're not doing anything wrong, but I am so pissed and annoyed. So instead of focusing on them, when we know they're not doing anything wrong, when we're like, what's going on in my body? Do I need to move and complete the stress response cycle? Or do I need to take some micro movements here? What's going on? So having that self-awareness and having tools to move through is really powerful. And then when we understand this, if we get to the end of the day and our partner is, hey, how might it feel to connect physically? And we can't turn our brains off. We know there's nothing wrong with me. It doesn't mean I don't want to be intimate. It just means that my action-taking nervous system is overachieving right now, and it's putting the brakes on my sex drive. If I can do something on my own, dance, sing, exercise, scream, cry, whatever,
Have a shower.
yeah, complete the stress response cycle, then let me see what's left underneath. Then let me see if I address this brake, could there be more gas pedal? Could I start building? And then discussing this with your partner as well, so that you're both individually aware of your nervous system states. And then you can start building I call this almost like a roadmap or your manual for your relationship, but it's like your meta pattern. And anyone who's been in long-term relationship knows that your fights often go the same way, or your conflicts often go the same way.
Get out of the rut. It's the same thing all the time. It's like, why are you still annoying me? Why are you still annoying me? I'm like, why do we do this all the time? Frustrating.
Right. And so if you can actually take a bird's eye view and say, okay, the first thing I notice is I feel tension in my body and I'm getting really annoyed with you. So that's step one. Then you get oversensitive and you ask me, what's wrong? And then I feel defensive or whatever the pattern is. And so if we can name each step of the pattern, we can start to create different options at each step in the way.
I feel like if we really understand our nervous system and how it works and we name it, so we have good communication around it, that's what can shift our desire from frustration to, I might be a yes. If you warm me up a little bit, or if I warm you up a little bit, we might get some more intimacy going with ourselves. But understanding that nervous system of how it shifts, I think all of these strategies work really well. What would be your first thing with recognizing that? Is it just the communication around it, like dissecting why we fight that way?
I love creating a pattern. It can help with conflict, but it can also help with figure out your pattern specifically for intimacy. Is it, I think you look sexy, so I go over and grab your ass. When you grab my ass, I think that you, sorry, can I say ass? Should I?
You can totally say ass. Yes. Okay. I make sure all of mine are explicit just in case fuck comes out of my mouth. So no children are allowed to listen to my podcast.
I figured, but just like to double check. Yeah. You grab my ass and I'm immediately pissed off. I'm like, why aren't you being sweet to me? I think that you want sex and I'm not in the mood. I'm so tired. I've been planning all these things. I've just cleaned the whole kitchen and you didn't even notice. You didn't even help me. So naming these things, then we can start to identify, oh, you don't like it when I grab your ass? Oh, how could I initiate sense? Yeah, like what would make you feel loved and desired? What would make you feel safe in me expressing interest? So by identifying the pattern, we can create better outcomes that way. But then we can also say, what at any point, like if you are open, let's normalize for anyone who's listening to this. I want to name that responsive desire is a really common way to experience desire. And what I mean by that is it's like going to the gym where you're like, I know I'd feel better if I went to the gym. I know my body would feel amazing. I know I'd be so proud of myself. I would be so happy that I went to the gym. But right now, I'm so tired. I just can't get myself there. So a lot of the time people do feel similarly to sex, to this around sex. And so recognizing if you're that type of person, then there might be a bit of a runway that you need to get in the mood. So if you're like, I know I'd enjoy having sex with you. I know I'd feel really good and connected to you, but I just feel so tired. Let's start to brainstorm. Is there anything that would feel good? Would a massage feel good right now? Would eye contact feel good right now? Would kissing feel good right now? Would watching a sexy show together feel good? Would listening to sexy audio stories feel good? Would reading an erotic novel feel good?
And see all these snack ideas, you guys.
Right. And you can even read to each other. So if it's that, knowing also in your body, is it, yeah, it sounds good, but I'm not there exactly right now, but I'm open to getting there, versus, yeah, it's just a hell no from me. And both of those are valid. Both of those are valid.
One thing that I want to address, because it comes up a lot, is I am hot and horny with all of these hormones, and my partner is a no. They're afraid they're going to hurt the baby. They're afraid their penis is going to, and I can say, you guys, physically, that's not even a thing. Like, you don't have that big of a penis. It's not going to put a big dent in your kid's forehead. If that was a thing, it would be a thing, and everybody would know, yeah, that kid came out with a dent in his forehead because of his dad. Like, it's just not a thing.
It's like a reverse unicorn.
Oh my gosh, totally caved it in. Then everyone would know you were packing. It's just not real. But it is a thing. And sometimes partners also, I've had women say, they feel like there's somebody in the room watching. It takes out the intimacy because there's a baby in the room. I get it. Your baby only feels the connection and the oxytocin that everything's producing, right? Yes. They're not like, oh, geez, Dad, what are you doing to my mom? It's not like that. But I understand that can be a mental thing. How do you bridge that because I hear that a lot, and I probably a lot more than when I'm saying, hey, let's be sexy, let's be intimate and whatever. And when we do class 2 in hypnobirthing, it is my sexiest class. And I get emails afterwards. Hey, I want to go there. What do I do about him?
Yeah. I would start with, so you're probably noticing a theme. I'm all about baby steps. So I would make a red, yellow, and green list for both of you. And I would say, what are the things that feel like a green to you right now? Could a massage feel green? Could kissing feel green? Could you kissing different parts of my body? Could that feel green? And then what are the things that are a yellow? Are you open to seeing if we could make the yellows 5% more green? So just an example here, like if penis and vagina penetration was like a yellow and we're worried, oh my God, like I don't want to dent my baby's forehead, right?
Hit my baby. Yep.
Right. So what about external touch? Is that something that you feel comfortable with? Or could you come to the opening with your hands and not penetrate as deeply? Would that be something that you're interested in? And we play with different options here.
I even think the play and the conversation can be sexy. That can be an entry snack point, just having that conversation, because a lot of times we haven't had those conversations with our partner. Or that's been a kind of a taboo thing. Like, I don't really know how to even get my desires met because I've never talked about it. Now I'm pregnant and I'm on fire with these hormones. Mm-hmm. How do I even start to have those? The red, green, yellow thing, really brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's so helpful. And you learn different things about yourself and your partner as well. And I'm just recognizing yellows can shift either way, right? If you're like, oh, I thought this was a yellow, but I'm trying it. I really am not feeling it. Okay, let's shift to a green that we can both agree on. And I just want people to keep turning towards how do we connect and create pleasure for both of us. And you can do a lot with something that's not penis and vagina penetration. There's a lot there. There's a lot of pleasure to be had.
There's a smorgasbord. There's a lot.
There is. And so I think that understanding, okay, can I just run my hands over your body? Could I kiss your back, different parts of your body? Could I just put my hands on different external structures? I really encourage people to explore and play. And you can even be like, okay, how good does this feel? Is this like a 9 out of 10? Is this an 8 out of 10? And then you're like, ooh, you really like your collarbone touched. Okay, that's good for me to know. Or what's your favorite part of your body for me to kiss? So we can play with that. And again, it's really turning towards connection, pleasure, and intimacy, and less of a focus on, okay, this is how we used to have sex and it's got to look like that. It's going to look different. It's going to look different across your lifespan, even if you're not navigating pregnancy and postpartum. But especially when you're navigating pregnancy and postpartum, it is going to look very different. And it's important for you as a partnership to be able to be flexible, agile, right? Shift, pivot over all periods of life. And the last thing I'll say here is if you're unsure where to start, you can play with different sensations, right? Take an ice cube, put it on different parts of your body. See if that feels interesting, right? Drip some of that ice on different parts of your body. You can have hot tea by the bed, take a sip of tea, and then kiss different parts of your body. Play with that.
And we use the Bucky 40 blinks for labor. that take out the eye sensation, right? And I always say, you're going to want one for labor, but I would get two because they're pretty freaking amazing for sex.
Yes.
And they go, oh, I don't know. They get two and they're like, you were not. I'm like, I know, I was not lying. And when you take the eye sensation out, everything changes and you become a little more uninhibited and both of you get to play on that. It's phenomenal. So please get a blindfold. There's
play
my
with
tip of the day.
Blindfold. Play with temperature. Play with scents. Is there a scent that you like? Can you diffuse a scent that makes you feel sexy? Can you listen to music that makes you feel sexy, right? So different sensations. And you can also play with, if you have a soft blanket, if you have a scratchy towel, if you have kitchen tools that you can run along each other's bodies, like there's a lot. So shifting to sensation, shifting to play, shifting to connection is what I will say.
A lettuce knife is pretty amazing.
There you go.
Yeah. It's because it's not sharp, but it has a different texture to it. And it feels really good down your back or down your arms. Yeah, lettuce knife. I know that's random. They're $1 at the dollar store. So get a lettuce knife.
I want to be punny and say, let us know how it goes.
I'm okay with that.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. I think these are some really good strategies for helping us get going at the first of the year. That's when this episode is actually coming out. So if you're getting it in August, then you're ahead for next year. But getting more in connection each and every month, making little micro goals, I think is so key with communication as we're in pregnancy, moving into postpartum. Obviously, as with everything, I want you 5 months before you get pregnant to start all of this. But if you're finding this during pregnancy, start now. We're going to have another episode on the postpartum. I really want you, can they come to your Instagram or my Instagram and let us know what other questions you have for either want to do another one for pregnancy and questions you've got for that, or moving into the postpartum as we're doing that second episode, because not only do we want your questions answered, but we want to give you ideas and strategies on how to get that connection going. You will be different parents. Your kid will have different parents than you guys had if you can come together in the intimacy department. And it's not always penetrative sex. Intimacy is a smorgasbord wide range of everything. And I think a lot of times we just think of it as sex. You don't even have to have sex to have really good intimacy and communication. And sometimes sex is off the table for some of us, whether it's health, whether it's baby related, whatever. But if you connect early now, the postpartum is going to be so much easier.
And I agree. Please, we want this to be a collaboration. I love, after recording podcasts, I love to hear from you. I'm on Instagram at Be Well with Rose. I would love to hear if you listened to this episode and something resonated with you, please let me know in the DMs. If you want to hear a specific topic addressed in future episodes, we are here to support you. Please let me know in the DMs. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know how this would apply to me, or I really am hoping to get some one-on-one support or some support for our partnership, I want you to know that I offer free 20-minute phone consultations. And you can find that at my website at bewellwithrose.com/schedule-now. You can also find that in the link of my bio on Instagram. And so if you're unsure what the next steps might look like, we can jump on a free 20-minute call. I also have some group offerings and some one-on-one offerings. And I want y'all to know that I work completely virtually now. So no matter where you are listening to this, you can get support. So listeners of this podcast save $150 with coupon code BIRTH for any of my programs. So please
great.
Reach out, take advantage of the coupon. And if you are wanting to stay connected to yourself, if you're wanting to stay more regulated and calm for your pregnancy and for your parenting journey, if you're wanting to connect to your sexy side, if you're wanting to turn up the volume on your desire or get back in touch with your body, or if you've experienced pain during intimacy in the past or the present, these are great programs for you. So all of my programs combine the physical movements, breathing, nervous system work, as well as top-down approaches where we're looking at communication, boundaries, beliefs, connections. I would love to support you.
I would love for Rose to support you. So please take advantage of her coupon and find her at bewellwithrose.com. And until next time, Rose, we'll take a little break and then we're going to come back with everybody's questions and have part 2 for intimacy for postpartum.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to the end. And thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. And it's always a joy to be in your presence.
Same here. So thank you for being here and we will see everybody next week.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us today. And remember, it's your body, your choice, and finding your voice is your power. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us in all the places, and go to birtheducationcenter.com for our blog and more online education classes. And we'll see you next week.